Well, I've gotten myself into a tough spot now. You know, this type of shot, you will see it on the golf course sometimes. But before we go ahead and tackle this technique, I want to go into a little review of the basic fundamental sand shot. Then we'll talk about how we're going to alter that technique to hit this one. So we'll be right back. Once you understand the impact, though, it is made a little bit easier. Now, I've got a news flash for you, and that is that the club never touches the ball in the sand bunker. That's right. The club actually hits the ball in a way that creates a cushion of sand that the ball rides out on. That's maybe why some of you have struggled, is that you're trying to figure out some way to catch that ball clean. But what happens is, when you're trying to pick the ball clean out of there, the swing is not going very fast. So what happens is if you hit even the slightest grain of sand behind the ball, it won't get out of the trap. So you may find that you're hitting 1 and 2 and 3 and it's not going anywhere. So now the pros know this. They know that if they try to chip it with a small swing that it won't get out and that contact becomes a serious issue. So what they do is they say, okay, I'll just go ahead and hit it hard and hit behind, creating a cushion of sand that the ball rides out on. So that's the way it works. That's why it's so different, and you have to understand the technique to do that. So again, if you've struggled in the sand bunker, hopefully the next few minutes will clarify it for you. Now, a sand wedge is a sand wedge because of this back part. That's called the flange of the club, and it's very, very important. To make use of this area, though, this flange part of the club, we have to turn the club face a little bit open or to the right. You can see when it's square that the flange is not exposed. When I turn the club face to the right, the flange becomes exposed, and it creates a situation where this bottom part is facing up a little bit. That makes it act a lot like a rock on a pond, where it's going to skip across the pond. If it turns down, it's going to dig. So we want to have this situation where the bounce is going to help us, that flange, where the club will not dig too deeply. Turning the club face open to the right, however, is going to make the ball go to the right. So what do I have to do? That's right, aim a little bit to the left to compensate. Simple. Aiming the club face to the right, that exposes the flange. Aiming myself to the left, that's going to compensate for the ball flying out to the right. Now, I talked a minute ago about how I want the club to contact the ground first, to go ahead and create a cushion of sand for that ball to ride out on. That's going to be very important. So to do that, I need to have the ball a little more forward in my stance, up by my left foot a little bit. Club face to the right, I've got myself to the left. So now I've created a situation where I'm ready to hit the ground early. Now, the real kicker for this shot is that the swing is the same. That's right, it's not some unusual motion that you're going to make. You should be able to practice for an hour in the bunker and go back over to the driving range and hit the ball just fine. It's the same swing. Luckily also, because you may spend a round or 2 or even 3 where you're not in the sand bunker at all. So you don't want to have some strange swing that you're practicing just for this one little shot. Luckily, it's the same swing. Now, as I set up to the left, again compensating for that club face being to the right, I'm going to go ahead and make an absolutely normal swing right where my body is going. Now again, this is very, very important. You will hear and read sometimes that you want your swing to cut across the ball in the sand bunker. Well, it does cut across the ball, but not because of your swing, it's done because of your stance. If I aim to the left and make my normal swing, the swing will cut slightly across it. You know, in the New Orleans Classic a few years ago, this case in point really stood out, and that was Blaine McAllister, a great player on the PGA Tour and a tour player for many years. He had to par the last hole to win the tournament. Well, he bunkered himself on the last hole, and what happened was he had kind of a long bunker shot, not super long, he was still in the green side bunker. So he set up to hit his shot, club face well open, body aiming to the left to get ready to hit the shot. But then, unfortunately, he added a very exaggerated out-to-in motion. So with his body already to the left, once he added that to his swing, now the club cut across the ball viciously. Well, when you do that so much, it doesn't have enough forward momentum. It won't drive the ball out forward. So what happens is he got up and hit the shot, and because it glanced across it in such an exaggerated fashion, the ball only went out a few yards onto the putting green. He wasn't able to make his par putt, so he went into a playoff. Well, it happened again in the playoff. He bunkered himself again. Same thing. He went ahead and made his setup well across it with the face open, but then he added to it again an outside backswing, exaggerated. So he actually left the ball in the bunker on the first playoff hole, and then he hit it out the same way where it didn't get the distance that he needed. So again, we need to watch out that we don't have that swing altering additionally to that stance. Once you make your stance over there, the swing itself is perfectly normal. I can't emphasize this enough. It must be your normal swing when you're in the sand bunker. It's not an unusual motion. So let's go ahead and give it a go. Club face to the right. I've got myself to the left. And again, I'm going to go ahead and make a nice normal backswing, nice normal swing right along my body line. Taking a closer look at it, you see the club face pointing to the right of target and my body pointing to the left of target to compensate for that. This is a glancing blow situation, so the ball doesn't go right where I'm aiming with my body, nor right where the club face goes, so the flagstick is in between those two lines. Once I go ahead and set up that way, it's a normal swing right along my body line. Now the more exaggerated I have the club face open and the more my body is to the left, the higher and shorter the ball will go. I can also swing a little bit harder or a little bit easier to vary the distance of the shot. You can see from the front that I have the ball positioned up here by my left heel. I do that because I want to hit the ground before I get to the ball, and putting it more forward helps me to do that. Then I make a normal swing right along my body line. Well, I hope that was helpful. You know, reviewing the fundamentals of a shot is never a bad idea. But now we have a little different situation, and we have to know how to alter that normal technique to hit this shot. Now, why do we have to do that? That's because the ball is below the surface of the sand. It's down in the sand. So if you remember from a minute ago, we don't want that club to dig too deeply. So we go ahead and expose that flange of the club to help us with that. Well, now we want the club to dig deeply. If the club passes along the ground and doesn't dig, it's only going to catch the middle of the ball. So we have to be able to get that digging motion to get down underneath the ball. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to square that club face back up. We're not going to open it up anymore. We're going to play it square. When we play it square, it's going to be able to dig a little bit more. That sharp leading edge is going to be able to go down into the ground. The second thing that we're going to do is to go ahead and use these little muscles in our hands a little bit. That club is going to hinge a little bit more, making the club go up into the air. What we're going to do then is to go ahead and swing it back down, very strong into the ground, driving the club into the sand and underneath the ball. What happens is the club comes on a very sharp angle, boom, down into the ground, and it has the chance to get underneath that ball and pop it up into the air. Now again, in this game, I'm not really a big fan of these little muscles that move the club, but this time we need them. So we're going to go ahead and also put the ball just a little bit back in the stance. That also makes the angle of approach a little steeper so it goes into the ground. If it was forward in my stance, it's a little more shallow where it passes level to the ground. A little back in the stance, hinging the club up sharp, driving it down sharp with the club face square. Let's give it a try. Now I want you to notice on that shot there was not a big high follow through, and that's because the swing goes down into the ground so sharply. It basically gets resistance from the ground preventing me from following on through. Now something else about this shot, it's going to come out with much less backspin than what we're used to. Not nearly as much control. So you're going to get in situations where you won't be able to get this shot close. If the pin is cut very close to the edge, don't force the issue and try to get it close. Sometimes you're just going to have to hit it and make that 25-footer for par. Remember, at this handicap level, we've got to keep those doubles and triples off the card. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our discussion of some of the finer points of chipping for your handicap level, helping you to get to the next level in your golf game. As always, when we're learning a new strategy or technique in this game, it's going to take some practice to integrate them into yours so that you don't have to think about them too much. But at least now you'll know what to work on, so that practice time will be much better spent. That actually brings me to another point, and that is you're starting to get to a level where you really need to put a little more time into it. 1 or 2 times per week to the range and 1 game should be enough for you to keep moving forward. If you find yourself only making it to the golf course once a week, though, you may feel like that's plenty of golf. But if you want to get down to a position where you're getting into those single digits, or at least knocking on your door to do that, you're going to need to get a club in your hands fairly often. Now, hopefully, with some of the things we've learned, it's going to be a lot more fun to put that extra time into it, and it'll be time well spent. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed our time. I know I did. Make sure to visit our website at golflevels.com. I'm Roger Gunn, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the next level.